Hey y'all, it's Kelly Clarkson here to talk Wayfair. No matter your space, style, or budget, shop Wayfair.com to make your home way more you.
Wayfair, every style, every home.
Work takes up most of your time. That's why you should use Stamps.com to save time with your mailing and shipping. Stamps.com will simplify your postage needs and add valuable time back into your workday, so you have flexibility to focus on more important things. Stamps.com can handle your mailing and shipping needs with rates up to 88% off UPS and USPS. Send invoices, checks, certified mail, packages, and anything else you need to keep your business running with Stamps.com. If you sell online, connecting with every major marketplace and shopping cart is easy. Plus, you can schedule package pickups through their dashboard and automatically see your cheapest and fastest shipping options from different carriers with Stamps.com's Rate Advisor. Add more flexibility to your workday with Stamps.com. Go to Stamps.com/program to sign up for a special offer. No contract, cancel anytime. That's Stamps.com/program.
When you're operating at an enterprise level, nothing drives success more than effective team communication. Grammarly for Enterprise enables your company to work smarter and faster. Other AI tools can't quantify impact. With Grammarly, you get measurable results and actionable insights, like tracking key metrics that include brand compliance and readability from their effective communication score. Because when you're able to visualize your team's impact and compare performance against industry benchmarks, you can make data-driven decisions that improve critical business outcomes. So whether you need to streamline messaging between technical and marketing initiatives or cut down on emails between external collaborators, you can trust Grammarly to help employees communicate effectively across the board. Start boosting productivity company-wide with Grammarly. Visit Grammarly.com/enterprise to learn more. That's Grammarly.com/enterprise.
It's the Opperman Report. And now, here is investigator Ed Opperman.
Okay, welcome to the Opperman Report. I'm your host, Private Investigator Ed Opperman. You could find me at Opperman Investigations and Digital Forensic Consulting through my website, emailrevealer.com. You could just email me directly at oppermaninvestigations@gmail.com. Our guest today is Kelly Justice. I've known Kelly for a long time. She's a true crime expert, okay? And she's been contacting me about the Lori Vallow Daybell case. And
Vallow.
That's what I said. Lori Vallow. And I said it twice. Lori Vallow Daybell. Okay. So, Kelly Justice, I guess you are there.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much. I really appreciate this. So before we get into this whole Lori Vallow Daybell, tell us about yourself. Who is Kelly Justice?
Well, I'm born and raised Floridian, 7th generation. I had a crazy childhood where I was exposed to all kinds of different religions and political views and political groups. My mom, she went to school for criminal justice, and she had me doing a lot of her homework at a very young age, and it kind of planted a seed to be curious about people that do bad things and why they do that. She had me reading In the Belly of the Beast, which is a book I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with, letters from serial killers to different, I don't want to call them fans, but, just curious people. So ever since then, I've just been super into true crime and religion and all aspects of that. Super curious. I love studying it. So that's what brings me to this Lori Vallow case. It's the best of the worst of both worlds of religion and true crime.
Give us a quick, before you get into the whole details, the quick overview of this case. I know she got involved in this kind of weird cult where she was almost like a leader, right? And then started offing her husband and her kids. Give us an idea. What's the whole Lori Vallow Daybell case?
Yeah, just a super quick overview of the whole thing. She went down a slippery slope from traditional Mormonism into the small groups of preppers that form, and she met Chad Daybell, who was an author, 25-plus books of near-death experiences and holy experiences with spiritual beings and end times, all this kind of thing. And they met. It was a perfect storm. They started this cult, is the right word for it. They named it, oh Lord, what was the name of it? It'll come to me in a minute. It was a offshoot of Mormonism in the 1830s. So they were repeating Mormon history, making this subgroup where Charles decided that, or not Charles, but Chad Daybell decided that he had a light and dark system where he could judge whether someone was on the light side or the dark side of spirituality and deemed them worthy to live or not. And with the help of Lori's brother, Alex Cox, they just killed everybody that was in their way.
Yeah, I think it's called Preparing a People. Is that it?
No.
No?
Preparing a People is the conference that they met at, and that is a conference of Mormon preppers that meet. I was at those conferences as a little girl. So, yeah, that's not the name. I've got it written down somewhere. I can't believe I can't remember it. Yeah, but Preparing a People was the conferences that they were going to.
Now that's
Church of the Firstborn.
Church of the Firstborn. Okay, well, that's an interesting name, too. Okay, Church of the Firstborn. Okay. Now, but she was married when she met this guy, right?
Yeah, she was married to Charles Vallow.
And then, what was his... was he going along with this, with his wife hooking up with this other guy and starting a cult?
No, not at all. It was a slow descent. She started telling him that he wasn't welcome at these Preparing a People conferences, or firesides, as they like to call them, where they had this group, Melanie Gibb and Chad Daybell, of course, and her brother Alex Cox. And she said that you're a zombie. You're no longer a person. You're a zombie. You're inhabited by this spirit of Ned Schneider. And they tried to do what we would know as an exorcism, but these people call them castings. They perform these castings. It didn't work, and so he had to be killed. And Alex Cox killed him and told the police it was in self-defense, and just completely got away with it. And she thought she was going to collect life insurance, of course.
Right.
It's a big motivator for her, for all of the blood on their hands. And he had just recently put the life insurance into his sister Kay's name. So she was very upset to find that out.
Now, is this common with the Latter-day Saints or the Mormons for them to believe in people being possessed by spirits?
Yes, it is in their doctrine that a certain number of spirits were cast onto our planet in order to tempt us. So there are a certain number of demons that are free to inhabit people, and that is in the Book of Mormon.
And they just happen to be in everyone in her family.
Right.
Okay.
Well, there's certain parts of the Book of Mormon that aren't talked about or even really practiced in the mainstream LDS church, just like there's parts of the Bible that, Christians don't practice anymore. So, yeah, you're not going to find the normal LDS person doing castings or believing that people are possessed. This was picked up and magnified by this group that they made.
Okay, and if you said that you yourself attended these Preparing a People type events, then what was your experience with the Mormon Church growing up?
My experience, I was a little girl, so I was in what was called Young Women.
Right.
From, I think it was 6 years I was in. I went all the way through Young Women. I attended the temple. I was baptized. once a month you do a fast and testimony service where you get up in front of the church and you tell them why you think that this is the one true church, and you believe the prophet, and you don't eat all day. And that part was pretty miserable. But they practice the word of wisdom where you don't drink caffeine, or, my stepfather at the time was a bit of an extremist, so we didn't have fluoride, we didn't watch TV. It was pretty extreme. So you go through, when you're 12 years old in the Mormon church, you get to go have a meeting with your bishop alone, where he determines whether or not you are worthy enough to get a temple recommend. And during these temple recommend interviews, you're asked explicit questions about your masturbatory habits, your sexual activity. Your parents are not allowed in the room. They ask very specific questions. Do you climax? What do you do? How many times? If you've been sexually active, they're going to ask you all these different questions. So there's a lot of problems that arise, you can imagine, with these situations. And as a 12-year-old little girl, I was told that I was worthy to go into the temple, but my mother was not, because she was divorced and converted, which is frowned upon. So anything that happens in the temple is sacred and therefore secret. So you're never to repeat anything that happens into the temple, any of the rituals, which are Masonic rituals, almost carbon copied on a lot of times. But when you're a young woman, the only thing that you get to do is baptisms for the dead. So you go into these fonts and they dunk you. Just imagine a regular baptism, but it's 20, 30, 40 times, and it's a list of people that are in a purgatory, if you will, waiting to be Mormon. So and they've baptized Elvis, they've baptized Anne Frank. Just, it's pretty terrible. Anything to get as many names onto the roster as baptized into the Mormon church. So you, as a young woman, you're a proxy to these dead people, and you get baptized in their name, and then you get the gift of the Holy Spirit in their name, and that's what you do. So that's what I did in the temple.
Okay, and when you get the gift of the Holy Spirit, is that evidenced by tongues?
No, Mormons aren't charismatic like that.
Then what would the evidence be of the baptism of the Holy Spirit?
There's no evidence at all.
Okay.
They just lay hands on you and they say, you, Ed Opperman, now have gift of the Holy Spirit in the name of Father, Son, and the Holy Ghost. Amen.
Gotcha.
And then that dead person has the gift.
Now, have you listened to any of my shows with the Branch Davidians, the Waco cult?
Yes.
Okay, then what do you? Because I just have a brand new one. It hasn't aired yet with David Thibodeau. His reaction to the Waco Apocalypse Netflix documentary that just came out. So how would your stuff compare to what's going on over there?
It's kind of apples and oranges.
Okay.
The Waco and the Branch Davidian is already an extremist version of their religion. So the normal LDS is run-of-the-mill. I'd also like to say that they're very nice people. You know, they take great care of themselves, and the run-of-the-mill Mormon is very well-intended. They've just, they believe some odd things, but they're nice people. They really are.
No, I got you. That's what Mr. Trump said. Very fine people.
Yeah.
What do you call it now? Lori Vallow's husband, Mr. Vallow. What was his name?
Charles Vallow.
Charles Vallow. Okay. So now
he was a great dude.
Really? Now, were Lori and Charles, were they mainstream Mormons before they got into this this other stuff?
Yeah, Lori was raised in the church, and she was a run-of-the-mill Mormon. And after they got married, they moved to Kauai, and that's where she started kind of this slippery descent into madness, where she started attending the temple every day. She started taking down their family pictures and replacing them with temple pictures. All they would listen to was church music. And Charles had a problem with this and had a problem with her not inviting him to these firesides, or kind of like Sunday school meetings or like Wednesday night church meetings is what Mormons call firesides, and with this specific group. And before you know it, she started saying that she needed to no longer eat or sleep like a regular person because she was having so many encounters with holy beings at the temple that she was spiritually superior to the point of not having to meet normal physical needs anymore. And Charles told the police this. He called the police. This was later on, in the story, that she took the kids away. She wouldn't let him see them. She called the police. There's videos on YouTube of him telling the police she's lost her mind. She thinks I am inhabited by an evil spirit, and she's threatened to destroy me, which in Mormon terms is kill. And the police kind of really didn't take him seriously. And a couple weeks later, he died.
Yeah, I think I watched, there's like a Netflix documentary on this, right?
Yes, Sins of Our Mother. That's done by Colby Ryan, which is her firstborn son, and one of the only people left alive in her circle.
Wow. So then what was the manner of death of her husband, Charles?
Alex shot him, claiming self-defense, which could have been, nobody was there. They could have been arguing, and so Alex provoked him so that he could say it was self-defense, but it was definitely planned. So he told the police that he and Lori were fighting, that her daughter Tylee came out with a baseball bat to defend her mother, and Alex sent Lori and Tylee away. They started fist fighting, which led to...
This time of year, a good hoodie is absolutely essential, but it's tough to find one that will last through the season. That's why the American Giant Classic Full Zip Hoodie is made to last a lifetime, so you can count on it to bring you comfort and warmth year after year. Slate Magazine called it the greatest hoodie ever made, and from cotton to zipper, it's made right here in the USA. With timeless style, heavyweight fleece, a double-lined hood, and reinforced elbow patches, you can depend on it for years to come. Snag the hoodie that will bring you comfort for life, the American Giant Classic Full Zip, and save 20% off your first order at American-Giant.com when you use code CLASSIC24 at checkout. That's 20% off your first order at American-Giant.com, code CLASSIC24. This time of year, a good hoodie is absolutely essential, and the American Giant Classic Full Zip Hoodie is made to last a lifetime. With timeless style, heavyweight fleece, and durable details, you can depend on it for years to come. Snag the hoodie that will bring you comfort for life, the American Giant Classic Full Zip, and save 20% off your first order at American-Giant.com when you use code CLASSIC24 at checkout. That's 20% off your first order at American-Giant.com, code CLASSIC24.
My dad works in B2B marketing. He came by my school for career day and said he was a big ROAS man. Then he told everyone how much he loved calculating his return on ad spend. My friends still laugh at me to this day.
Not everyone gets B2B, but with LinkedIn, you'll be able to reach people who do. Get a $100 credit on your next ad campaign. Go to linkedin.com/results to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply. LinkedIn, the place to be, to be.
Alex fatally shooting Charles.
So Alex had a gun, Charles was unarmed.
Right.
Yeah, I can't believe that people get away with that. It's so rare. Now,
it's state to state what the laws are with these self-defense claims. Yeah.
So then what happened? Then they went on a world tour, and the kids were missing. No one knew where the kids were, right?
Right. Yes. So let me catch you up here a little bit.
Okay.
So because it's so convoluted, and it would just take days to break down the whole timeline and every character and every player. But yeah, so let me get to the meeting. Chad and Lori met at church while he was giving a talk, and she was starstruck. They were already both attending these Preparing a People conferences where she started reading his books. he was the kind of L. Ron Hubbard of Mormonism. He wrote all these fiction books, 25 fiction and nonfiction books, with titles like Living on the Edge of Heaven, Evading Babylon, The Great Gathering, Martial Law, just fear-mongering, crazy. He was a cemetery sexton, so a lot of his books were about supernatural experiences that he had as a grave digger, ironically enough. He did that for many years. They started meeting privately. Him and Lori, Melanie Gibb, Zulema, Melanie Boudreau, which is Lori's niece. So there's two Melanies. And he told Lori that they had been married in many, many past lives, which is a mainstream Mormon belief of pre-existence and many past lives. So they had been married, and so they were going to be married again. And God, Heavenly Father was telling him that his wife was going to die in a car accident, and he has these dark and light scales. And, of course, he determines that her husband is dark and his wife is dark and her two children are dark. So they run away and get married after his wife dies from natural causes, quote unquote. They exhumed her body to find out that she was died by asphyxiation. While she was still alive, Lori ordered on her credit card, on Tammy Daybell's credit card, which she had access to through Chad, ordered their malachite wedding rings. And just a couple weeks after her death, they ran away to Kauai and got married. The children were already missing at that point. They were last seen in September. Lori and Chad got married on November 15th, but the kids were last seen in September. And the grandparents called, well check, and Lori said, oh, the kids are with, Tylee's at BYU, and JJ is with Melanie Gibb. So the police call Melanie Gibb, and she says, no, they're not with me. And Lori said, just take some pictures of some random kids, and I'll tell them that they're at the movies with you. So later on, Melanie calls Lori, like, what? Where are the kids? Nate from East Idaho News gets word of this. He's been amazing through this whole thing. He's the journalist that you see in Lori's face this whole time. Where are the kids? Where are the kids? After the marriage, chasing them through Kauai, back in Idaho. As soon as they get off the plane, here's Nate. Welcome back home, Lori. Where are your kids? And she's just, mum is the word. She won't say anything. So,
well, let me interrupt you further for a second there, because it's amazing. Because just think, they got away with the death of his wife. They got away with the death of her husband. And if they had just taken the most basic alibi pictures, like you said, of these kids, enrolled them in a camp in Swahili. You know what I mean? They're the most basic. They would have got away with all of this, because no one cares about the kids.
They were so careless. But it's this superiority, they're no longer operating on man's law. They're on God's law, and they're above everyone else. Chad told Lori that they were leading the 144,000 that was going to usher in the second coming of Christ and be protected during the apocalypse. And, he was replacing Jesus in a lot of stories with himself. So, yeah, he totally fed her narcissism, and they just thought they were above everything. So the police started looking for the kids in November 2019, and they didn't get Lori arrested. They found her in January, put her in jail for abandonment, because that's all they could charge her with. They couldn't find the kids.
Yeah.
And finally, in June, June 10th, they found the remains of JJ and Tylee on Chad's property in a pet cemetery. And finally, Chad was arrested, and now they both are facing charges. They were supposed to be tried together, but the judge decided to separate them, and so it's two separate trials now. And Lori was originally deemed mentally unfit to stand trial, so she had to be put in a mental institution for a year. Now she's deemed fit, and we're in the 4th week of trial, which has just been the craziest thing you've ever seen, with these people testifying about what they were doing at these firesides and the castings and the names of all these demons. And this person had the power of the weather. Zulema, she had the power of the weather, and she was trying to bring tornadoes to make Charles crash. Before they decided that Alex would just shoot him, they tried to send a tornado, but it didn't work. And she's on the stand saying this with a straight face. Apparently the jury's mouths are on the floor, and defense is asking, or the prosecution's asking, if she still believes this, and she says, yes, it's in Scripture. I still believe it. It's just unbelievable.
What was she saying at the time to be declared unfit to stand trial? What was she doing and exhibiting at that time that's different now?
We don't know yet. We don't know. She probably was just saying her truth. She probably was just saying what she thought to be true, and they're like, we got to lock this broad up and throw away the key. Yeah, because
if this is what got her in there declared incompetent, and then they declare her competent, which is ridiculous. I don't think it's a big sham. But then, and then she's saying the same things. I can't imagine what she was doing before that was so different from now. I can't imagine not bathing. What more could there be? So now
the defense opened with a freedom of religion. So she still apparently is hell bent on that. I can't wait to see if she testifies.
So the defense is that they were authorized to do what they did.
Well, her, because it's just her that's on trial now. But yeah. I guess that's what they're going to say, that she was practicing her religion.
That's fascinating,
isn't it?
Now, are these attorneys, are they of the same faith?
No, I don't think. I mean, of course, you can never know, but from the way they're explaining and asking questions, I don't think there's anybody in the court that's LDS.
Now, she and Chad, do they still have followers that are donating money to them? I bet they got more followers now, if I were to guess, right?
There's no one sitting on her side. There's no one there on her side. The defense has already said they have little to no witnesses to call.
Oh, really?
So, yeah, everybody's pretty much, and everybody that was her friend has already testified against her.
It would be funny if they did have followers, but they're at the fireside, and unless we could bring the fire into court with us, we're not coming.
They're trying to bring an earthquake to the courtrum right now.
Yeah, our religious freedom. Yeah. We got to bring fire with us. Who knows? Now, this is incredibly fascinating. So now, but we don't know if they have followers that are donating money to them now and supporting them. How about online? Are you following the online debates? Are they any supporters?
I've not seen not one supporter.
Okay.
No, it's just so horrific. That JJ, we found out during the trial that he died by asphyxiation. He had and he was 7. Tylee was 17. JJ was autistic. He was adopted by Lori at just a couple months from drug addicts in her family, but she raised him as her and Charles's son. And so he was found bound at the ankles and the hands. He had a bag over his head and duct tape over his mouth. That backs up the fact that they believed when you die, there's a 2-hour window where a demon can re-inhabit your body unless the body is bound, dismembered, or burned. JJ was bound. Tylee was dismembered and burned, to the point where authorities only found traces of organs and rendered fat in buckets. They can't even determine what method of homicide it was that took her life, because the remains were just such a wreck.
And I guess some of that's due to the expertise of Chad with his funeral experience, right?
It must be. It's unbelievable. They were in shallow graves, which is why a lot of people are leaning towards Alex Cox, Lori's henchman brother, is the one who actually got his hands dirty and killed the children and just put them on Chad's property. Because you'd think if Chad was going to do it, he would have at least dug a proper grave.
Now this
and now we know that his fingerprint, there was a latent fingerprint found on the murder weapon of Tylee, which was a pickaxe found in Chad Daybell's work shed with Alex Cox's fingerprint on it.
And I think before you said the brother's name was JJ, right?
The little boy is JJ, the little girl is Tylee.
Okay, and what's the brother's name?
Alex Cox.
Alex, okay. Now what's the story with him? Is he on trial too?
Alex died. He took his life the day after Tammy Daybell's body was exhumed. So the police started connecting the dots and said, we don't think that Tammy died of natural causes. They exhumed her body to find that she was killed by asphyxia. The next day, Alex Cox commits suicide in his home. And his cell phone was pinged in the area the day of Tammy Daybell's death. So we can't rule out that he did that too.
Wow.
And of course, we're just scratching the surface, because we're still smack in the middle of Lori's trial, and Chad's haven't even started yet.
Now, what about Chad? Was he ever declared incompetent?
No. I guess the holdup with him has just been COVID and the fact that they had to decide whether they were going to be tried together or separately.
Okay, now, but if she was able to convince her brother of her faith, and he was a loyal disciple of these two, were they able to convince other family members also to win her powers and stuff?
Her niece, Melanie Boudreau, her husband, I can't remember his first name, just like Charles, he said, this is getting kind of wacky. I'm not going to come to these firesides anymore. Y'all are off the daggum deep end. And so they ended up getting a divorce. So, yeah, there was a couple of family members that followed along with this. What did I say the name of the church was? Church of the Firstborn.
Firstborn, right.
The Church of the Firstborn. The real church that was going to usher in the 144,000 and clear the earth of zombies. We have text messages of Alex saying, what are you doing to her sister Lori? And Lori's like, just working on Z's, killing the Z's. I mean, unbelievable.
Yeah, it really is terrifying what's going on out in people's heads out there, until you start getting a glimpse in there. So the niece and her husband were at one point devout followers, and the husband says, I'm out of here. What about the niece?
The niece was on her side until they found the bodies, along with her sister. Now, her sister wasn't in the belief system that Lori was. She's mainstream LDS, but she didn't believe that her sister did anything wrong. Her mother, her sister, and her niece defended her until the bodies were found. And now her sister and her niece have both testified against her.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I think I remember that from the documentary, that the mother and the sister were defending her. And I wonder what justification they had for these kids being missing.
The mother was saying that people were persecuting her daughter, and, they were upset about all these people's deaths, and they had all these ideas in their head about her sweet baby, and so she just had to put the kids somewhere safe where they weren't going to be affected by all this negative press. and she just believed that Lori knew exactly where they were.
Now, when they were doing all this traveling around, getting married and stuff like that, who was funding all this? How were they paying for that?
Well, Chad had gotten a substantial life insurance from the death of Tammy, and Lori was using her daughter's Social Security money after her death, which she's also being charged for now. Not only the Social Security from her death, but the Social Security that she was receiving from her father, who passed away many years ago.
Oh, wow. She was still getting her father's Social Security check?
The daughter was, Tylee. Yeah, she was receiving Social Security from her father's death. So when Tylee died, now Lori's got both.
Right, gotcha. Oh, gotcha. Wow. And what about the kid with autism?
Mm-hmm.
Was he getting a check too?
Do what now?
There was another kid they adopted who I believe had autism?
Yes.
Were they getting a check for him?
Yes. Yeah, she was taking all of it. She was stealing all of her dead babies' money.
Fascinating.
Mm-hmm. And with he had a publishing company. Him and his wife Tammy had a publishing company. What was it? They published all these end time books. So they did pretty well with that. And with the money from her life insurance, they had plenty. They were going back and forth from Rexburg to Arizona to Kauai all the time.
Yeah, those kind of end of the world books, man. Those things sell. It's really easy to drum up a market for that bunch. It's really a gullible bunch, and you can take a second hit at them too.
Yeah.
These guys know what they're doing. So now what? Chad Daybell, what's the story with his trial? When's that coming?
I'm sorry, say that again.
Chad Daybell, when's his trial coming?
We don't know yet. We don't know yet. I don't think it's been announced. I don't know if it's contingent on the verdict somehow of Lori. They probably want to make sure they hear all the evidence and the witnesses. So, yeah, I don't have any idea.
Now,
She's been sitting in there a while.
In order for not just her, but her brother and her niece and the niece's husband to become convinced of these religious theories that Chad was churning out, were they able to see any real miracles or any kind of substantiated scriptures in the Bible that would substantiate what they were saying?
No, not the Bible. So the Mormons have 3 holy books: the Book of Mormon, the Doctrine and Covenants, and the Pearl of Great Price. And so the holy experiences that they had can only be proven by their word of, the stuff that happened in the temple. And they had prayer closets where Chad would go into his prayer closet, Lori would go into his prayer closet, and then they would be together in the spirit realm fighting this war, or just being together as a married couple. They had this telepathy. What's that called? The
ESP?
But when astro projection.
Right, astral projection,
yeah. Yeah. The men who look at goats or whatever.
Yeah, they would meet on the astral plane, yeah.
Yes, yes. Yeah, so they were just, totally tripping without doing any drugs, these guys. Just living in a whole nother existence where the rules of this world didn't apply.
Yeah, and then when you become consumed by that kind of stuff 24 hours a day, it's easy to get off on another, like you said, in a fantasy world.
Yeah, you get in a bubble, in an echo chamber, and you have everybody telling you how wonderful you are and how spiritually superior you are, and you believe it. And she clearly still does. She really clearly still believes it.
Now, what about the people back at these fireside, what do they call fireside meetings?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No,
mm-hmm.
No, what about them? They're still having their meetings now, right? What do they have to say about these fellows? Oh, no. They're a little too extreme for us, While they still sell the books. While they still sell the books.
Yeah. Right. Zulema still believes. Melanie Gibbs says she no longer believes. But yeah, there's still this fraction of the LDS faith will always exist because there is such a emphasis on the end times and getting food storage. You know, every run-of-the-mill Mormon is taught that you need to have at least a year per person of food storage in your home at all times. So this is a cornerstone, the apocalypse and being superior, being a part of the only one true church. And it was founded by Joseph Smith in the 1800s, who was a magician and a treasure digger. And the whole premise of him begatting Mormonism was getting a seer stone, which is a rock with a flat surface on one side that's kind of transparent, put it in a top hat, put his face in the top hat, and was able to decipher and write the Book of Mormon. And he's seeing God and Jesus, and they told him, there is no true church. You have to form your true church. And a lot of people, there's evidence to support that all of this was, of course, for money, but also because he wanted to have lots of wives. So he had to say that God said that he had to do this. So, you know, he's smart, like L. Ron Hubbard. If you want real money and power, you create a religion.
And also, too, though, he claimed that he found a golden book, that then he lost it, misplaced it.
Right, the plates. That was the Book of Mormon.
Right,
that
the plates.
Was he was given the plates by the angel Moroni, who Lori Vallow claimed to be married to as well.
Oh, really?
He was given the plates by Moroni, and he translated them through the hat and the seer stone.
And how did he misplace those plates again? Do you remember what that was?
You know, it's the darndest thing.
I know.
He just couldn't find them. Just like all the people that he would take treasure digging. He would take their money and say, I'm going to take you to this place, and I can see where the treasure is because I have this seer stone. And then they would go to the place, and he'd be like, oh, y'all did something wrong. It's not here. But thank you for your $9.95. You know.
Yeah, and he would also claim that the Egyptians had visited certain cities in America and South America and stuff like that, cities that are on no map or don't exist anywhere, and they've done DNA testing now that even further dispels some of John Smith's theories.
Joseph Smith.
Yeah. Well, John Smith is at the hotel room he booked it where he lost the. It's a little known story
John
there,
Smith
Kelly.
was the bad guy in Pocahontas.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
So
then coming through.
Yeah, but you know they also.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
They also believe that black people, they couldn't get the priesthood. They believe one of the more fringe beliefs of the mainstream Mormon church is that people with dark skin are descendants of Cain because he was cursed with dark skin. So his descendants have that same curse. And Cain still walks the earth today, which people now know as Bigfoot. And this is what they believe.
Oh, really? See, I hadn't heard that part. But I remember Jerry Falwell saying that the black race was a line of Cain. And that wasn't that long ago.
Yeah, Jerry Falwell, he's another one I could talk about for days.
Well, that was before his son went into the pool boy business.
Right.
Did you know when that story first, because it hadn't even hit the papers yet, when the story first came out and all the rumors were in the background, he called the kid an aquatics engineer. Okay. He was, gosh. He was not a pool boy. He was an aquatics engineer. Because that story's been around for a long time. Yeah. So now what about Kelly Justice then? What is your fate today? If you've been through this, I can tell you kind of soured on the Mormon faith. Then how did you come out of this, and how did you land?
Oh, my mom, she just married a different fella with a different set of beliefs. My stepfather at the time was excommunicated from the Mormon Church for being a part of one of the biggest underground anti-government militias in the country. They believed him to be a part, actually, of the Oklahoma City bombing. He didn't do it. We didn't do it. but we were investigated because we were guilty by association with this militia group. So the Mormon Church heard that, and they excommunicated him. And that's why we were at these Preparing a People conferences of extreme Mormon preppers. So I was never there with Chad and Lori because it's kind of like, they're on tour. So we went to the ones here in Florida, and they were up there.
That's very interesting. But how was your Mormon group? And this was in Utah? No.
No, I'm Florida.
Florida.
Yeah.
Oh, so there was a Mormon group in Florida that was somehow connected to OKC?
Well, Preparing a People is just the name of a conference of Mormon preppers.
Gotcha.
So these authors and speakers would just go on tour, and the local Mormon preppers would go to these conferences in their area. So there was probably a Chad Daybell booth at these conferences, but I was just a little girl. I heard all about how the food that I loved wasn't, nutritious, and the 144,000 and the apocalypse and all this. It's just a lot of fear to be raised in. I didn't enjoy being asked invasive questions about my sexuality. I didn't even know what masturbation was when I was 12, and he was asking me all these questions about it. I didn't like the feeling of them telling me that I had to keep secrets from my mom, who I was better than. None of it sat right with me. And it's probably because I was rebellious a little bit too, because my mom was just hell-bent in it and had us just in the full Mormon life, and to appease her new husband, and I wasn't about it.
So it was your stepfather who was actually giving speeches at these events?
No, he was the head of our local militia chapter.
Okay.
But our militia chapter would go to these events.
Gotcha.
We were just attendees.
Gotcha. Okay, the attendee with that bulge in on his ankle and his hip.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, my childhood was crazy.
Yeah, we all were. Come on, we all were. Now, what about? How do you raise your kids now? Do you have a faith now?
We go to a Unitarian Universalist church, the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Lakeland. It's a mouthful, but we go there because you are free to believe whatever you want to believe. You can be sitting in the pew next to somebody with a completely different theology or no theology at all. So they have a principle, it's resistance is what we're learning about this month. And so we go into all the different religions and learn what do they believe on it. What do the Buddhists say? What do the Taoists say? What do the, go down the list. Now, we're not asking what the Mormons say, but it's just learning, and that's what I love. So my kids can make, what I teach my kids is to use their brains and to think and to ask questions and to always hope for the best, but not to trust anybody just for no reason.
And if they do ask what the Mormons believe, Kelly Justice will use her militia training from childhood to overtake the building there and shut down the meeting, right? Okay. Is there anything?
They're everywhere. I get in trouble. I'm a hairdresser, and I'm always, I'm always talking to my clients about this stuff. And a lot of times there's, there could be LDS people in the room. I put my foot in my mouth many times, which is why I want to say again that they really are very nice people. 9 times out of 10.
No, I agree with you. Now, as far as this Lori Vallow Daybell case, is there anything I didn't ask you that you want to share with us?
Not that I can think of. I just can't wait to hear the rest of the evidence. I can't wait to see if Lori is going to testify, and I hope that they televise the verdict, because Idaho has this weird law where they don't necessarily have to televise the court hearings. So we're just getting audio at the end of every day and sketches and reports of journalists in the courtroom. We're not able to actually see, and hopefully Chad's is televised. So I'm just on the edge of my seat wanting justice for these 4 people that have died so these two narcissist murderers can be together. It's just disgusting. It makes me so mad.
You know, it's interesting. I was talking to Gordon Woods today, the Celtic Boys Club. They just had his verdict in his criminal case just like 4 days ago. And over there in Scotland, they don't even, you can't even say the defendant's name once the trial starts. You're not allowed to talk about anything, or even the victims. It's
really?
Oh, it's so, you get arrested for it. It's contempt of court.
Who isn't allowed to talk about it?
Nobody. You can't blog about it. The press can't talk about it. You get arrested for it.
So you and I couldn't do this there?
No, not if it was a case in Scotland. No, definitely not. Yeah.
Wow.
Isn't that incredible? Yeah. So now, Kelly Justice, you're a big true crime fan. You're snooping around those kind of topics, conspiracy theories. What are you working on next? Snooping around. What are you working on?
Well, I'm also in this Letitia Stout trial. You know, Letitia Stout, she murdered her 11-year-old stepson in 2020 and is now pleading not guilty by reason of insanity. So I'm right in the middle of that trial too.
And which one is that? Is that Kyron? No.
Sorry?
Is that the Kyron? The kid's name was Kyron? Who's Letitia Scout? I'm not familiar with that.
No. His name was Gannon Scout. And it was her stepson. She was an Army wife. Her husband was away. She was the caretaker of her daughter and her 2 kids. And she just hated her life, hated her husband, and she lost her temper one day, stabbed, shot, and strangled Gannon, 11 years old, put him in a suitcase, and brought him to Pensacola, Florida, where his body was found after months of being missing, and her coming up with 1,001 stories as to what happened to him, including sex traffickers, people faking their pregnancies, vampires going door to door and knocking like Jehovah's Witnesses. I mean, these 2 cases right now are just the craziest thing I've ever seen. And they're at the same time. It's unbelievable. Oh, and one more thing. The first week of Lori Vallow's trial, something happened that I've never seen in court, and I have followed every major trial since OJ, watched it through and through. So the autopsy pictures are on the screen of JJ and Tylee. I think this is the 2nd or 3rd day of trial. And she got upset, which is the first and only time we've seen her show any emotion at all. And defense excused her. They motioned to the judge that she be excused for the portions of the trial where autopsy photos are shown. And the judge denied her motion. He said, we go to such extents in the court to make sure that the defendant is in the courtroom that if they're disruptive, we put them in the chair and gag them. He's like, you're not getting out of here. So she threw a fit, literally stomped her foot, put her hands on her chest. Next thing you know, she's back in court. She sleeps the whole rest of the day. Through her murder trial, as her children's autopsy pictures are on the screen, she is zonked out at the desk. So I can only assume that her defense medicated her with something that she must be prescribed to, because otherwise that might be a mistrial, right? But because she was just labeled incompetent, I'm sure it does have a host of medications that she could be on. So, yeah, just sleeping. I've never seen that in my life.
Well, except for that Darrell Brooks case, man. That was did you follow that? You drove the car into all those people at the parade?
Darrell Brooks. Yes. Was he asleep too?
Oh, are you kidding me? He was asleep, taking his clothes off, taking his shirt off. This guy was out of his mind. Yeah, these guys.
It's coming back. I think I've seen clips. Now, I didn't follow that whole trial.
My God.
I am recalling clips of him taking his clothes off. I'm going to have to go back.
Oh,
and watch
yeah.
that.
It's worth it to go back and watch it from beginning to end. It was a circus in that courtroom. Him arguing back and forth with the judge was just infuriating.
And wasn't there was kids involved in that too, right?
Yeah. He plowed through a parade of kids marching dance in a Christmas parade. You know, it was horrific. Yeah, it was.
Didn't he have big, thick dreads
at the time of the accident? Yeah, but that was all shaved off later on.
Okay, yeah, I know the fellow you're talking about.
Fascinating case, man. Fascinating case. He had
There's
just so many issues. This guy had so many mental issues.
You just have to remember that there's more good people out there than bad. These things that we're talking about are just so horrific, and you get in these bubbles that you and I get into, and you can start to believe that the world is a really terrible place, but it isn't. There's still more good than bad. Most people are good. Most days are good. These are just crazy, extreme cases that are all over the media.
I hear you. Kelly Justice, thank you so much. I really enjoyed this. We've been talking about the Lori Vallow Daybell case and about the Church of the Firstborn and these fireside chats. And thank you so much, man. Listen, you got another topic you want to come back and share with us? I would love to have you back.
Yeah, I sure will. Definitely when the end of this trial's over, we'll have to revisit the verdict.
Take a little nap first and then come back.
Okay, I'll try.
Okay, thank you so much. Kelly Justice.
Thanks, Ed. Have a good day.
Good night.